November 24th, 1982. This is Joe Todd. Interview with Miss Onie May Daniel. Hey, Miss Daniel, where were you born?
Chapel Hill, Arkansas.
And when's your birthday?
August the 6th. I was born in 1898.
Where's Chapel Hill?
About 2 miles east of the Oklahoma border and southwest of DeQueen, just as well as I can locate it.
And who is your father?
Henry Washington Daniel.
And where is he from?
Well, he was an Arkansas man.
What part of Arkansas?
Close to Rising, Arkansas. It's the county seat of Cleveland County, and we lived about 8 miles north of there, of Rising.
And who is your mother?
Nancy Ella Appling Daniel.
And where is she from?
She was from Grapevine, Arkansas, I guess. Incidentally, I have a Masonic Grapevine, Arkansas meeting of the Masonic Lodge in 1879. Sometime if you were out here, I'd show it to you.
What was Chapel Hill like? What do you remember about Chapel Hill?
I don't remember anything because I was born there and I didn't stay there very long.
Okay. From Chapel Hill, where'd you move?
Well, I guess we moved from there to what is called Staves, Arkansas, Grapevine. I suppose that's what you could call it. I remember one incident. You may not want to put this on.
Go ahead.
You may not want to put this on your tape, but I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
My grandparents lived in DeQueen, Arkansas for a while, and so did 2 of my aunts. And my brother Joe was about nearly 3 years younger than I. And they had cisterns, cisterns with a... And this one had just a light screen cover on it. And I remember one day that I had climbed up right in the middle of that thing. And I was trying to get my brother Joe, he was just crawling around. I was trying to get him up there too. And I can even see that yet. That sure looked like a dark place.
Did you get your brother up there?
No, somebody found me before. and now this will come later. I was taking a short creative writing course at Oscar Rose Junior College, and I wrote a little story about that, how scared I was.
Did you go to school in Arkansas?
Oh yes, I went to school in Arkansas. I was in the 8th grade when I left there. We came to Oklahoma. Arkansas didn't have a graded system. You were in a certain reader, and incidentally, I'm eligible for the McGuffey's Reader Society, but I never have joined it. We had the McGuffey's Reader from 1st grade on up to, and my mother had a 6th grade reader. She went to school in 1897 in Sheridan, Arkansas, where I taught 1 year. And
what was the name of the schools in Arkansas you attended?
Well, the grade school, of course I went there till I came to Oklahoma. Mullis, M-U-L-L-I-S, Mullis.
Remember who your teacher was?
Yes, one of my teachers was Mr. Fairley Ashcraft. And then I had he was my primary teacher, I guess. And then when I got on up in the 8th grade, Miss Inez Cochran. She was my teacher then.
What kind of games did you play?
We played basketball. And I remember we girls had when we were there at Muller School. At the recess period, we'd go out. We made little doll houses. We'd go out there and use shell for little dishes, you know. When we came to Oklahoma, as I said, I thought when I was younger, in about the first or second grade, that I would never get up to be in the sixth reader. That's what we called it, in the sixth reader instead of sixth grade. And I finally made it. And when we came to Oklahoma, their schools were graded. Arkansas schools weren't graded for a long time. In fact, they hadn't been graded but a few years when I went back there to teach in 1942 to 43. But they were, of course, they were far advanced then. And while I was there, I taught the 7th grade, one section of the 8th and one section of the 9th. And I would have taught more than that. I had about 225 pupils, and I would have taught more than that, but I didn't have space for them in my room.
Mm-hmm. Why'd you come to Oklahoma?
My uncle, who was the country doctor, wanted my mother to come to Oklahoma and keep house for him after his wife died. And we've been here ever since.
So, did your father come with you?
No, he was dead at that time. He died in 1906.
1906.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of my brothers, my youngest brother who lives in Norman, the older brother Joe is dead. My younger brother was born March the 20th, 1906, after my father passed away, February the 16th. And he's still living.
Mm-hmm. So it was your mother, you and your two brothers came to Oklahoma?
Yes.
And how'd you come? By train? Wagon train?
Wagon train to Duncan, Oklahoma. No, we came by train.
By train?
Regular train, uh-huh.
Okay, which train did you take?
St. Louis and Southwestern. That's what it was called, and I don't think it exists anymore.
And which route did you take? You come through Oklahoma or down through Texas?
Through Texas to Fort Worth, and then we came north on the Rock Island to Duncan, and that's where we...
Can you tell me of any experiences on that trip, on the train trip, that you remember?
I don't remember very much about it because I know one thing. When I was younger, every time I'd see a train, it would scare me. I don't know why. I can remember one time my father picked me up and was holding me. We were meeting the train for some reason or other.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked me up and held me. I guess I'd have run off if he had.
And then from Duncan to Doyle, how'd you travel?
By wagon, I guess, because that's... My uncle didn't even have a car at that time. So that's only...
How long did it take to go from Duncan to Doyle by wagon?
Well, I don't know. It's quite a distance, about 25 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine about how fast you go.
Mm-hmm. What was Doyle like at that time? What do you remember about it?
Oh, it was in a hilly location. There's lots of little gullies and ravines there. Up on the hill, there's a lot of... Some people lived up on the hill. It was flat from there on. But Doyle was... I know the school where we went had a lot of little rivulets in it, you know, when it would rain. But we played what we call town ball. It's a little bit like baseball now. And I couldn't wait from one recess to the next to get out there and play. And then we played basketball too. We had to have our baskets outside. Couldn't have played out there if it was raining.
What was the town of Duncan like when you first arrived there? What was your impression of it?
It was just like one of those western towns, you know. Just it's pretty good size by that time though. And I went to Duncan High School for about a month, in 1916, I guess it was. And then as soon as I got old enough, I taught my first school at Doyle Primary. I got about $40 a month for that.
How old were you when you were teaching at Doyle?
I had to be 18. I passed 2 county certificates, third grade certificates, but they wouldn't let me teach because I wasn't old enough at that time.
How long did you live in Doyle?
Oh, from about 1912 to 1918.
And you say your mother kept house for your uncle?
Yes.
What was his name?
Dr. J.S.A. Appling, Joseph Samuel Augustus Appling.
Mm-hmm.
He had a wide practice, and if I do say so, he was a good country doctor.
He was a doctor, and
he had a drugstore there.
What was the name of the drugstore?
Well, it's his name, under his name, same as his.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mr. John Davis had a general merchandise store. And my mother later on became the postmistress there.
In Doyle?
Mm-hmm. And my brother has my father's old round top trunk down at Norman. And he was looking through there. And I went down there one time and I saw these certificates on the wall. One from the Postmaster General in Washington. All that long time ago, penmanship flourish, you know. And a certificate for my father and my mother, postmasters. And that's what, I think that's what my mother was doing when we came to Oklahoma. Of course, she farmed after my father passed away. Well, she could plow just like any man.
What'd she raise?
Corn and cotton.
You ever chop cotton?
Oh, yes, I have. Sure have.
How do you chop cotton?
Well, you just take a hoe along and chop out the grass out there. And if the plants are too thick, well, you just hoe them down. I would chop cotton when I was barefooted in the summertime, and I thought my feet would blister.
So you pick cotton too?
Oh, yeah.
How much could you pick in a day?
Oh, my goodness, I couldn't pick 100 pounds. I'd have starved to death if I...
What was cotton selling for at that time?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have any idea.
Mm-hmm. So you lived in Doyle till about 1918, 1917? Then where'd you go?
Well, from there we went to Paul Valley. That's where we moved from Doyle to Paul Valley, about 1917.
How come?
My mother wanted to send us to high school.
Duncan didn't have a high school?
Well, Paul Valley High School.
What about Duncan? Did it have a high school?
Oh, yeah. I went there about a month. My mother couldn't afford to send me anymore, so then I went to school at Edmond in the summertime. Go to school at Edmond, and in the summertime and spend what money you made going to school, what money you made teaching school, which wasn't very much.
Mm-hmm. How long did you go to school in Pauls Valley?
From 1917 until 1921 when I finished.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I taught a school. When I was in high school there, I quit teaching and went to school.
Where'd you teach at that time?
It was a little country place called, it was Ferguson School. They called it Ignorant Hill just for fun, you know. And I was my own boss. It was a one-room school. And I think I got $90 a month there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my board had to come out of that. Incidentally, I had an attack of the measles while I was teaching there.
What kind of work did your mother do in Pauls Valley?
She had a boarding house.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any work for the war effort in World War One, 1917, 1918?
No,
Did your mother?
no, except keeping the boarding house. That's all she did.
Mm-hmm. Were you a flapper in the 20s?
What?
Were you a flapper in the 1920s?
No, sir. I sure wasn't.
What is a flapper?
Well, you'd almost call her one of these sexy girls this day and time. Not quite that far because they didn't go that far. They could be called a flapper. No, they just gay, wanted to have a good time and dressed a certain way, you know, and
What kind of dresses did they wear?
long dresses.
They wore long dresses?
Uh-huh.
So who wore the short dresses in the 20s?
There wasn't anybody wearing short dresses then. Not when I was in school.
Mm-hmm. In the Depression, what did you do?
Well, I was teaching school, going to school.
What were you teaching?
Well, I taught, my first school was in Doyle. Then I taught school about 4 miles north of Pauls Valley. And 1 month and 4 years, I taught in the boys' training school,
Mm-hmm.
which was located at Pauls Valley at that time under Governor Ernest Marlin.
Mm-hmm. So you were a teacher during the Depression?
Well,
In the 30s?
yes, part of it.
Was it pretty hard during those times?
Well, yes, about food it was. We never went hungry, but we were limited on what we could buy. I mean, everybody was.
What'd your mother do? Did she stay at the boarding house?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you say you went to OBU?
1923 to 25
Oklahoma Baptist University?
in Shawnee. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. What'd you study there?
Why didn't I stay there?
Well, what did you study there?
Oh, I studied psychology and everything, botany and just a lot of things. I was in the Girls Glee Club, for one thing.
Mm-hmm. Who was head of OBU at that time?
Dr. J.B. Lawrence, Lawrence.
Mm-hmm. Who was your favorite professor at OBU?
Oh, I don't hardly know. I guess my very favorite was a man in the head of the Spanish department. Uncle Jimmy Owens.
Yeah.
He's passed away since that time. And I took the Sunday school manual, Baptist Sunday school manual, in Spanish.
What was Pauls Valley like when you were living there? What kind of town was it?
Oh, it's about like it is now, except it has grown quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Did you know Mrs. Fields?
Which Miss Fields?
The one that makes the pecan pies in Pauls Valley.
Oh, yeah.
What's she like?
What's he like?
No, Mrs. Fields. What was she like?
Now, which one was she?
The one that made the pecan pies.
Well, I don't know whether I know her or not. Those pecan pies, by the way, they're pretty expensive, but you can't beat them anywhere.
Mm-hmm. What did you do during World War II?
Oh, let's see. I was. Well, now this goes back to Pauls Valley. I remember when the soldiers went through, you know, on the way to the service, we'd go down and meet the trains. And of course we'd go on. I don't remember whether they ever served any cookies or anything like that to them. I don't think they did, but of course they'd pick them up all on the way. Those trains were real crowded. I don't know how many cars they had, but they were all full. Boys going to the service, you know. One of them said to me, "You want me to send the Kaiser back to you?" And I didn't know any of those boys, but I might near cry every time I'd go down there, because I didn't Didn't know whether any of those boys had ever come back or not.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them did, and some of them didn't, I guess.
What were the dust storms like around Pauls Valley?
Well, we didn't have the dust storms so much there
Yeah. Okay.
as in the western part of the state. That's where they really had the dust storm.
So when did you move to Oklahoma City?
1944. I've been staying up here, but my mother and I moved from Pauls Valley in 1944, December.
And what'd you do up here?
Well, I worked for Tinkerfield. That's how come I moved up here. I was working for Tinkerfield at that
What'd you
time.
do out there?
Worked in maintenance and supply.
What'd you do in maintenance?
One thing I told you about packing those fuel pumps and carburetors. Those carburetors were about that long and about that high, and the fuel pumps. A woman was not supposed to lift any more than 25 pounds. But one friend of mine said, well, I'll go down and weigh one of those pumps. That was empty. I could look down there and see where they were repairing those pumps. And he said they weigh 25 pounds and more. So I had to take them off. The men had taken them off of the engines from the test block and empty the gasoline out. Then I'd put them on a wheel like that, wheel them around a few times, and then safety wire them and put them in a box and put two of those with the engine over there. They put the engine over there and they put two of those. And then I've helped store those engines in boxes. I used different kinds of machinery. One time I was loaned over to the pistons and rings department over at what was Douglas plant then.
Mm-hmm. After World War II, what'd you do?
Well, I worked at Tinkerfield. I've been here ever since.
You stayed on at Tinker then?
Until 1958, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm. Did you retire at Tinker? Or?
No, I was what do you call it?
Yeah.
I was reduced in force because I had received a broken leg in the meantime,
Yeah, okay.
and I went back to work and worked very
Johnny
long.
watched for buzzers, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I watched to see the buzzers come on.
Well, I think we have a good interview. Anything else you want to tell me?
Well, no, except that kind of a coincidence. This morning, my music director was over from First Baptist Church,
Mm-hmm.
and he had I was telling him about a man who was a music director in the East Side Church of Christ. By the way, what's your church?
I was raised in the Baptist church.
Well, you're a Baptist too, huh? We have a lady here. She's the sweetest little old woman. She told me when she came that she'd been a Baptist ever since she was 9 years old. And her daughter was one of my favorite LPNs when I was.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
Oh goodness, I don't know. I guess playing with my dolls.
What kind of dolls did you have?
Well, I had the best my father could buy at that time.
China head?
One time, my mother, they were China dolls, most of them. I have one doll now that my grandfather gave me when I was about 6 years old. It's in my father's trunk down at Norman.
Who was your grandfather?
Thomas Clark Appling. Thomas C. Appling, he's called on this.
Did you know him?
Oh, yeah.
Where was he from?
He was around Grapevine, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. What'd he do?
He's a farmer.
Mm-hmm.
This Masonic letter says that he was a prosperous farmer. He had a large family, and My grandmother, Appling, she was a Williams before she married. And my mother said that during the Civil War, my mother was born in 1866, and during the Civil War, she said that my grandmother stayed at home. Of course, my grandfather was in the service at that time. And of course, now this was Arkansas history, but it has. We didn't make the run in '89, of course, because I wasn't born then.
Now, your grandfather was in the Civil War?
Uh-huh.
What side did he fight on?
South. I've got a letter in there that tells just exactly what his outfit was, but of course I couldn't remember it without looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have pictures of him at my home here in Midwest City.
Are there any other comments you want to make?
Well, I can't think of any.
I'd like to come back out and talk to you again.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
If you say you'd like to come out and talk to me again,
Yeah.
okay. Then I can go from there on.
Yeah.